Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be with you. We are going to be talking today about the eighth vow of the perfection of the Bodhisattva attainment of enlightenment that relates to the Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. This is one of the four great bodhisattvas of the Mahayana tradition. The first one being Guan Yin, the Bodhisattva of compassion. The second, Manjushri, who is the Bodhisattva of wisdom. Dizang, the only monastic of this group, the Bodhisattva of the vow to free all beings from the hell realms. And the fourth being Samantabhadra, who is the Bodhisattva of the 10 great vows. So these vows are referring to how it is that we try to create these perfections in ourselves. In the Theravadan school, for example, there are 10 perfections that start with generosity, morality, renunciation, wisdom, energy, patience, truthfulness, determination, and loving kindness and equanimity. And we have the Pali terms and a little bit of description, and then its comparison to the Mahayana 6 vows here. So these are the original vows that are discussed in the suttas, and then given much more of a structure in the Theravadan tradition. We go to the next, we see the vows from the Mahayana school, which originally were 6 in number. Generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom. And then expanded upon by Nagarjuna, we have skillful means, vows, spiritual powers, and knowledge. And the vows is number 8, and that's what it is that I would like to expand upon this morning. Obviously, to discuss all of this would take us some time. But we've all been studying this from beginningless time, so hopefully there'll be a sense of familiarity as we go through this. So if we go to the next slide, we have the 8th vow, as I said, to attain enlightenment. I vow to attain enlightenment, or the Bodhisattva variation on this is to become a Bodhisattva and to help all others to attain enlightenment, open the door first for them. Pranidhana in Pali, Yuan in Chinese. So the Pranidhana Sanskrit also from the Pali Panidhana and Panidhi means an aspiration, a resolve, and a vow. There's also a term Panadikama, meaning the repaying of a promise. In the next slide, we see in Chinese the character yuan, which is an issuing from the head to aspire to vow, or another term, also yuan, issuing from the heart to aspire or to vow. And another term, Shi Yuan, which is a promise usually to save all sentient beings that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas must keep without fail. And these vows are what we take by those who are practicing when they're aspiring for Buddhahood. For example, the 4 great vows of the Bodhisattva. And on the next page, we have the 4 great vows of the Bodhisattva, which we recite in our chanting. Depending on which chanting book we're using, we may say, countless are sentient beings. I vow to liberate them. Endless are vexations. I vow to eradicate them. Measureless are the Dharmas. I vow to learn them. Supreme is the Buddha way. I vow to attain it. So the next slide, a little bit complicated, just giving some history of this vow from the esoteric school. For those people who are interested, I can forward this information to you about how this was developed in some of the texts and how it was associated with a particular mandala. For those people who are interested, we can go to the next slide also. Again, more background information that I won't get into today about the mandala, but it's very nice, and also the next slide as well. More information about the background of this. And then finally, we get to the mandala itself. So you can see how this sometimes is pictured, and then there's a Chinese map of what the mandala is about. This is again from the more esoteric schools of Mahayana Buddhism. Calls sometimes the womb mandala, womb world mandala of great compassion. So for those people who read Chinese or have an interest in some of the deeper understanding of this particular picture, sometimes used as a meditation object, I'm happy to make this available. Even if you don't speak Chinese, it's okay. So the next slide, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. A bodhisattva is one who is made a vow to be of benefit to all beings in the world, no matter what the obstacles. And Samantabhadra, you can translate it in a few different ways: a universal worthy or universal virtue, associated with the practice of meditation, with the vow to action, complementing Manjushri, who is associated with the wisdom, transcendent wisdom. In Sri Lanka, Samantabhadra is known as Samana and is considered the guardian of the island of Sri Lanka. And in the Lotus Sutra, Samantabhadra is described at length in the epilogue called the Samantabhadra Meditation Sutra, with special detail given to the visualization of the Bodhisattva and the virtues of devotion. And Samantabhadra is also a key figure in the Flower Ornament Sutra, the Avantam Sanka or Huayan Sutra, particularly in the last chapter, the climax of this chapter. The student Sudana meets Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, who teaches him that wisdom only exists for the sake of putting it into practice, into action, that it is good insofar as it benefits all living beings. The next slide, we see an appearance of Samantabhadra on the elephant with six tusks. This is a picture of the Samantabhadra statue that we have at MABA. So the next time we get to go there, we will get a chance to read the 10 vows and to bow to the within ourselves, our ability to be able to manifest these vows. I'm very thankful to Sarah for making the background very nice, because at MABA there are windows behind Samantabhadra. If I showed it here, it wouldn't be as clear. So Samantabhadra is one of the four great bodhisattvas. So we want very much to be able to understand and practice putting into action his vows. So this Samantabhadra Bodhisattva in the next slide, universal worthy or universal virtue. Pusa is a bodhisattva. So in the Lotus Sutra chapter, encouragement of the bodhisattva universal virtue, Samantabhadra is described at length, and also in the Huayan Sutra. Here in the next slide, we have the quote from the Lotus Sutra. Then Shakyamuni Buddha extolled him, saying, it is well, universal virtue, Samantabhadra, that you are able to protect and assist this sutra and bring happiness and well-being to those living in many places. You have already attained inconceivable merits and bequeathed profound benevolence and compassion. From a long distant past, you have aspired to perfect enlightenment. You have been able to make this universal vow to guard and protect the sutra. And I, by immeasurable power, will guard and protect those who are able to receive and keep the name of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, universal virtue. In the next slide, we have a quote from the Flower Ornament Sutra, from the chapter on entering the inconceivable state of liberation, of conduct and vows, of universal worthier, again, Samantabhadra. At that time, universal worthy or universal virtue, Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, having praised the thus come one's merits and virtues, this is the Buddha's merits and virtues, told all the bodhisattvas, Sudana, if all the Buddhas of the 10 directions spoke continuously of the thus come one's merits and virtues for kalpas, many eons, as many as fine motes of dust in ineffable number. So Buddha lands, those virtues could not fully be described. Those wishing to perfect the doors of this merit and virtue should cultivate 10 vast and great conduct and vows. So in the next slide, we have the summary of the 10 great vows in English and Chinese. To pay homage and respect to all the Buddhas, to praise the thus come one, the Tathagata, to give generously and make abundant offerings, to repent of karmic hindrances, to rejoice in others' merits and virtues, to ask the Buddha to teach, putting in motion the wheel of Dharma, to request the Buddhas to remain in the world, to study the teachings of the Buddhas, to be in harmony with and be of benefit to all living beings, to transfer all merits and virtues to benefit all beings. So as we recite these today and become familiar with them, for some we've been familiar with it for some time, for others the first time, we can be aware this kind of practice, we can put it into our daily life. Perhaps, for example, we can take one vow a day over a period of 10 days and just focus in as our mind is aware of our experiences throughout the day, that we pay homage and respect to all the Buddhas, all the great teachers. Even if we have teachers from other traditions, we still can respect and be very grateful to them for giving us the great teachings. So we can remember maybe a few of the words of their teachings throughout our day that we respect. And then the next day we can appraise the Buddha and his teachings, and we can aspire to understand them in a better way. Maybe we take something that is difficult for us to understand and we focus on it and see how it might be applicable in our daily life. And then the next day we can see, oh, I can be generous. Perhaps we make a small donation somewhere, or a larger donation, or perhaps we help a person who is in need. We see where we can be beneficial to someone. Maybe even so much we're in a line at the grocery store with a basket full of food and the person behind us just has a few items. We allow them to pass first. This is also a kind of act of generosity. So small acts of generosity. We can see how we can do this. And then the next day, we become aware that we have made mistakes, that we have still within us some hindrances, things that get in the way of our own happiness. We have a craving for things that just are distracting, sometimes harmful. We may have remnants of aversion, anger, or hostility. We want to let those go. Our energy may still be up and down throughout the day, not so consistent. Sometimes laziness sets in, our motivation drops. We can be aware of that during this day, and we can focus on trying to keep ourselves more balanced. The next day, we can rejoice that other people have great merit and virtue. We can remove any obstacles of jealousy or envy, of competition or comparison. We can just notice the other people, say, oh, they have great values, no matter who they are. Maybe we can pick a person who is near and dear to us and see their virtues. Or we can pick someone who we don't know and focus on their merits. I'm a big fan of Greta Thunberg and her work on climate change, my own personal interest. And I rejoice in her merit and virtue. Then next day I can ask within my heart that all of those teachers who have great value, just as the Buddha did, we can ask them to continue to keep the wheel of the Dharma in motion, to teach the Four Noble Truths and the 12 links of interdependent coordination, dependent origination, to teach about the Dharma seals, to teach the Eightfold Path, for us to study together as we will in a little while. And then the next day we can say within our heart, oh, we hope that these teachers can remain in the world. We're very fortunate that we live in a place where it's relatively safe and we have enough sustenance, hopefully, and we have the exposure to the Dharma and also very good teachers available to us. This is not always the case. This allows us the next day to study the teachings of the Buddha. So perhaps we take a sutta or a part of a sutra and we examine it and study it and see how we can put it into action. If you're unsure where to start, you can certainly ask any of the teachers that we have, people that are knowledgeable about the teachings, to say, where's a good place for me to start? And then the next day we can be in harmony with all beings. And wherever we feel a disharmony, we try to replace it with a feeling of harmony. And then whatever benefits we receive from this, we dedicate this to all beings. So we don't try to hold on to it. So then we can, each time we go through the cycle, we go a little bit deeper. We can go to the next slide, and this is a verse also from the Flower Ornament Sutra. Sudana, the young boy who's going and trying to attain enlightenment through his journey, is addressed by Samantabhadra. Sudana, these are the Bodhisattva Mahayana's 10 great vows in their entirety. If all bodhisattvas can follow and enter these great vows, then they will be able to bring all living beings to maturity. They will be able to be in accord with Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, incomplete, universal, worthy sea of conduct and vows. Therefore, Sudana, you should know the meaning of this. So we go to the next slide, we see the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. In the Heart Sutra that we'll be reciting today, there is a verse about supreme and perfect enlightenment. This is the Anatara, Samyak Sambodhi. And here it is in Chinese. When we do the Chinese version, well, we note that this is a transliteration. In other words, the characters themselves don't carry specific meaning. They just sound like. When we do this, we'll listen for this phrase in the Heart Sutra. In the English version, you'll hear the Venerable lead us, Buddhas of the past, present, and future, by way of Prajnaparamita, attain the supreme enlightenment. And then we transfer all merit, as we did in the meditation. If one recites the universal worthies vows, then from just one small portion of one's good roots, everything will be perfected in a single thought, and the pure vows of living beings will all be fulfilled. The supreme and endless blessing from Samantabhadra's conduct I now universally transfer. May every living being, drowning and adrift, soon return to the land of limitless light. So this completes my short talk. I'm very happy to have completed my talk 3 minutes early. This is of great benefit. So I wish all of you well in this beautiful beginning of spring. And I'm hoping that all of you are remaining safe away from the COVID. And maybe many of you are already receiving your vaccines. And soon we look forward to being able to return to get together, to share our understanding in person, to be able to practice together. I look forward to driving to MABA, parking in the parking lot, entering the Chan Hall, going upstairs and seeing everyone putting on their robes if they have them, and going and finding our spot in the meditation hall, sitting. Usually the master is there already in meditation. The venerables are there in the front. I can picture it in my mind, the beautiful statue in the front of the hall. And I know this time of the year the birds are making a big chattering noise all outside. And when they hear us come in, and they calm down, so quiet at MABA. So 1 week out of the spring, the birds are chirping, and another week, the frogs are like great opera singers. And then everything is very quiet. So I look forward to seeing the smiling faces of the venerables and seeing all of you soon. I can picture it in my mind. I hope you can too. Even if you've not joined us there, you can picture it in your mind. And we hope to manifest that picture very soon. So whenever the smiling face of Venerable Kong Shi is ready to lead us in the chanting.
Yes, we are ready.
Oh, very good.